Do you remember when you were a wee kid, you used to put a bubbly gum card in the spokes of your bicycle so it would go when you were riding it down the street? Well, that's what this drill has started doing. Well, not started doing, it's been doing it for weeks. And I could see a whole bunch of sparks shooting out here. So I started to think to myself, you know, maybe the brushes aren't too good, and maybe one is packed up altogether. Well, I got that right, because today it's not doing anything at all. So I think it's about time we had a look indoors and see what's going on with the brushes in this old drill. There we go. That was a lot easier than I was expecting. There we go. That's probably enough. My dad got this drill from the dump in the place where he worked, and we put a new switch in it and it's been working. I thought, well, that'll maybe do for a while. That was well, it was before Kath and I got married, and we're coming up to our 34th anniversary. So this drill doesn't really, it doesn't owe me anything, if you know what I mean. But that spigot, or whatever you would call, fits in there just perfectly. So this wee drill has done me tremendously well over the years. Let's take it over to the bench and see if we can open it up. And in the meantime, maybe I ought to clean this thing up as well. This thing was in the dump as well, believe it or not. Somebody was actually throwing that away, and that was a long time ago as well. Well, I got the good of it, so unlucky on them. Okay. I think I found a clue as to where this might have come from in the first place. So there you are. Yeah, that would make sense, because that's about a cubit long, isn't it? What's a cubit? No. It's definitely titty bread, as we say in this part of the world. I think we'll have to have a look inside. Now, I wonder, can you access the brushes through this part here? It's definitely been opened a few times before. No. No. Does look to me like there's a bit of the brushes left on it. In fact, it looks like there's quite a lot. Maybe I've misdiagnosed this. Let me show you in there a bit closer. I suppose the first thing I could do is give it a good blast out with some compressed air, couldn't I? And then I'll try and lift out the brushes and see if I've got something that I could replace them with. Okay, compressed air. Now, my buddy Kev at Kev's Can Cave was talking about quiet compressors the other day. Well, Kev, you might want to get your ear defenders on here, mate, because my compressor's about a quarter of the size of yours, and boy is it noisy. So here we go. Boys, oh dear. Well, now, before we go blaming anybody, I think what we need to do is do another wee test now that we've given it a good blast out. Now, here is something which I do not recommend. Don't try this at home, okay? Never do stupid things, because this is what you're about to witness, is something stupid. Let's just see if it starts. You know, I don't think it possibly can, because this is obviously burned out. But let's give it a try anyway. Ah, well, that is a real shock to me, if you see what I mean. No, there wasn't a real shock to me. I'm being careful not to put my fingers in the air, but look at the sparks that are shooting out of that bottom brush. It used to be when I was a kid, we had fireworks at Halloween, and I would say that was enough of fireworks that we'll have for today. So now that I've unplugged it again, let's see if I can get that out of there and replace it. This one doesn't actually look too bad. Let me just see if I can tease that out of there. No. This definitely reminds me of working with my dad, because my dad was maintenance engineer, maintenance mechanic, and he didn't believe that there was anything that couldn't be fixed. So when he came across things like this drill in a dump or something like that, he just fixed it. He didn't throw it away. He just fixed it. And so one of the things that he was always doing was making new brushes for things. Not this kind of brush, but carbon brushes. And I wish he was here now. Right, okay. Leave the other one in, so we've got a reference to work with when we come to put this back. Let me see if I can show you that. In case you've never done this before. Get my glasses on. This is a carbon contact, which comes in contact with the commutator of the motor. And this is what brings the electricity up to actually power the motor. But it has to be soft, so it's made out of graphite. And gradually they wear down, so I can't really show it, but let me poke it down here so you can see. There's a spring in there, so as the brush wears down, the spring pushes it out to replace it, as it were. But eventually it gets to the point where it's completely worn out, so we need to find something to replace that. So, let's see, I think I'm going to have to just... Yeah, there's not much of it left. Now, have I got anything that I could replace this with? Well, I may have to visit my dad's workshop later on and see if he has anything left there. But in the meantime, I have brushes for an angle grinder that I bought a few years back. So let me see if these would be remotely close, or whether I could modify them to get this drill going. They look very different. Oh goodness. Right, they're not at all what I expected. Usually these things are connected up with a spring, and these ones aren't even remotely close. They're just the carbon blocks, so they're no use. That's a disappointment. But okay, Pi, you help. Part 2 of our exciting saga of the repair of the old drill. Now, I did find some replacement brushes for this drill online, but that ain't the cowboy way. It's only sissies that go running to buy things, and I didn't want the spirit of my dad revolving in his grave when I could modify something and not spend anything. Yes, Pi, I know, I'm comfy right there. So I went to see my brother instead, and he had some brushes that I might be able to modify. Now, if you're wondering what my brother was doing with carbon brushes for motors and stuff that he has lying about, that's because, believe it or not, he restores Sinclair C5s. And I promise it's not one of my silly jokes, he really does. And if you're not sure what a Sinclair C5 is, that's what they look like. And apparently there's a tremendous market for new ones. At least Steve can repair them and buy them. So he had these brushes. They're not quite the right thing, so he had them left over. Let me show you. There they are. You see, come back there so I can show you. There they are. And they're a lot bigger than the things that fit in there for a start. Let me see if I can get this out again for a second. You can see for a start that the spring is a lot bigger. But what Steve suggested was that I clip a bit of this off, replace it with the old spring, and solder the little contact part back on. So that's what we're going to try now. I'm going to try and cut these to size so that they fit in. So this fits in here, and then change the spring. So now the problem is here that, as you can see, this is way too wide to go in here. It is the right thickness. It will fit in there, but it's much too wide on this side here. On the in this dimension here. Now you might think, how are you going to cut that stuff down? But it's just soft graphite. So I'm going to get rid of it like this. And you know that graphite powder could be very useful stuff, because it can be used as a sort of dry lubricant. That'll fit in there, but that was the easy part. Now what I've got to do is swap the springs over. So the first thing I'll do is snip that off. And I don't really need that. Remove that spring. Okay. Right. Now the soldering part. Now this is going to be difficult. How am I going to compress this spring? And this crocodile clip might do the trick. So I'll push that on and retract the spring best I can. And if I can hold that back like so, and then clip the... Yeah, that might work. Trouble with putting something like this on, of course, is then you draw a lot of heat off the Okay, I think that's it. Let's see if it fits in here. Still have to cut it to length, of course, because it's got to go in here. Okay. Here's my new one. Let's see if I can get it to fit in there. I may have to take a bit more off it. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Let's clip this in. Okay. Set that down like that. Okay. Let's give it one of these dangerous checks. There's the plug. I will plug it in and let's see what happens. I'm being very careful to keep my fingers out of the way. Trying to get out of there actually. Switch it off. I'd really like to know where all those sparks are coming from, but it seems to me it's something to do with the commutator rather than the brush. And it keeps jumping out because there are retaining pins holding down to hold down the brush holders. So that's what the problem is there, but I'd really like to know what all those sparks, where those are all coming from. I think it must be imperfect contact until it beds in. So I think what I will do is put it together properly here and put it back into service and see how it lasts. See those sparks in there? Let me see if I can show you. Still not entirely satisfying, but I think what I'll do is I'll put it into service, see how things go. Now, let's set this in. There we go. Again. Let's see how we get it on. Okay, I think we're back in business. Oh, I think that'll do it for now. It's getting kind of cold out here. Well, after all that, there's still a whole lot of sparks shooting out of it. So I think what we'll do is just leave it for a week or so and try again and see if it beds in and gets any better. Well, I don't know if you can see in there, but that's both of the brushes replaced now, and the drill is still making a lot of sparks. But you know, this drill was probably made around about the mid-1970s, so it's about 50 years old. Perhaps it deserves to be able to make a few sparks, and it is working perfectly okay. So I think we'll call that job done. Thanks so much for looking in and watching me cheapskate my way through life. God's greatest blessings on you. Let's do this again real soon. Thanks for watching.